traversing the strange world with peace and Toodles.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Traversing the Strange World with Peace.
And me.
And...
Steel.
Alright, welcome back, everybody. So, today's discussion, it's going to be centered around memories. Moments in life that shaped who we are. You know, whether it be somebody saying something, a shift of belief.
Impactful moments.
Yes. Unexplainable moments.
Ooh. So it sounds like this was your idea. So obviously you must have something in mind. So why don't you lead in this adventure? Actually, first we have our segment, our first segment, our updates, ponderings, introspections, etc. So what have you been pondering lately?
What have I been pondering?
Considering, pondering, meditating upon.
Well, to continue upon last week's update, I hurt my arm. And I've really been trying to work around that and recovering. So taking it easy. Like I'll only lift... I usually won't lift any more than 10 pounds at the gym. So... And
Coming from the guy that deadlifts 450.
I actually hurt my arm. Lifting 515 to be exact.
515.
So, you know, I'm the type of guy where I do think things happen for a purpose, you know, and I think life teaches us lessons. So I've just sometimes been looking at it that way, and I really do think the reason that I hurt my arm was because, like, prior to the day before the competition, which was the 4th of July, I had worked for 21 days straight in temperatures ranging between 85 and 95 degrees. Probably not drinking enough water for how much I was sweating, and I was also taking creatine. So I think I done tuckered myself out pretty good. And
Could have been a kidney stone.
maybe the lesson I could take away from this is work-life balance, you know.
Ten cuidado con tu cuerpo.
I've recently had I've had more people come help me so that I don't have to work so many long hours. So I think the big takeaway is that I need to delegate more and not try to do everything myself, and look to, you know, trusted people for help.
What a positive life lesson to draw from a bicep injury. That's beautiful.
Bicep means... What's that mean, Steeley?
2 steps? No.
It means 2, you know. It's not just one. One can't do the task alone.
Indubitably.
Yes. You gotta have a co-host. You gotta have a tro-host. A co-host and a tro-host.
A tri-host.
Tri-host, yes. I like that better. What about you?
So we're
Toodles?
like a bi-host deal podcast usually, but today we're tri-host deal.
Tri-host deal.
Yeah.
The Trinity.
Lately I've been pondering some song lyrics. You know, I'll come home and do it all analog with a pen and a paper, and almost dang near, I'm close to running out the ink in my Pilot G2. Just filling up pages with lyrics that may or may not ever see the light of day. Just trying to focus on that craft. Every time I take a break and I come back, I'm like, man, my writing skill is not as good as it was when I quit, and it takes me like a song to get it back. But when I'm consistent, I actually see it getting better and better. Consistency, man. You gotta be consistent.
You mentioned before in a few episodes back that learning to write, it's a method in which
someone can maybe perhaps access the muse. Like, you have
Yeah.
thoughts, ideas, but you know how to...
That idea was when you practice and practice, then you keep that skill sharp so that when the moments of inspiration come, you can more accurately and with better quality record it down.
I like that.
So, but when you're not practiced and you're rusty, you might get an idea, but you can't really put it down to paper or lay it down on a mic the same way that you could if your skills were up and practiced.
What I like about that is, like, it makes me think of some people that we're going to be talking to in future episodes about, like, dream prediction. You know, is that another way of, just like the artist knows how to capture the muse, can somebody who, either from, like, a psychologist perspective or more supernatural perspective, is it somebody who knows how to recognize the patterns, right? Right. It's a skill that teaches you how to recognize patterns and construct them into something creative.
Yeah, like that consistency can also kind of keep your motivation going, because sometimes when you hit a area of writer's block, you know, when you previously had written like pages and pages of stuff that's actually pretty good, you start feeling good about yourself. So you're like, dude, I can write anything. Like, I can put down any kind of imagery on paper and portray whatever I want to and do it pretty technically, lyrically
comes from
too.
Your past progress.
Yeah, but when you hit the writer's block and you don't do anything, just, you know, because you're feeling like, well, I can't come up with anything right now.
Yes.
Well, then you're going to lose that skill, and then it's going to be longer before your next good thing is that you create. Because when you're in those dry spells, those dog days, you still, when you're putting in the practice and keeping the skill sharp, even writing junk that you'll never use, you're at least getting that junk out, so you're not going to reuse it again. So when the good stuff comes, all of it's good and it's better, and you're going to still feel better about yourself too, because you're always making progress, and it keeps you more. It makes you seek the inspiration more and more excited for it to come, because you know it is, because it takes those bad songs for the good ones to come. What about you, Steeley? What are you pondering? Oh, sorry.
No. That's just like, makes me think of going to the gym. Even the bad days at the gym are important.
Yeah, if you don't go to the gym because you're feeling crappy, then you're going to feel, first of all, bad because you didn't go, and you're going to lose your progress. So when you go back, you're not doing the same weight that you were.
But your previous progress will give you motivation to keep going.
Yeah, keep going through the dog days, and then eventually that inspiration is going to come back. But the difference is you've still been putting in the work in the meantime. So you're going to keep progressing and getting better. The same with the writing.
Yes. And a mantra that I'm constantly repeating, because I find myself talking to people that, say that they want to go to the gym, but they just have a hard time finding motivation. And my mantra is, fuck motivation.
Motivation is not something that simply comes.
Discipline is key.
Tell motivation to come.
Your motivation will come from the results you see from consistent effort. Going in on the day, you got to find a time that you prioritize going, and you go whether you like it or not. That's just the time you go. Even if you go badly, you still go. And you'll see progress from your consistency, and that you'll earn your motivation.
Motivation comes like you come sexually. It's not gonna come. It's not gonna come by itself.
Come on.
You have to put in the effort.
Yes.
Without the effort, nothing's gonna come.
There's no, yeah.
You know what I'm
No
saying?
muscles
Like,
come.
exactly.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
So Steely,
What have you been thinking about, Steely?
I forgot. Lately I feel like I've been thinking about struggling with having a life purpose.
the two most important days in your life is the day you were born and the day you figure out why.
Yeah, and I think I struggle, like we talked before the podcast a bit about ego. So I guess sorting out what is ego driven for myself and what is like legitimate. Because, like, you know, things I want to do, I want to be recognized for, but then I feel like I'm never going to get somewhere where I'm recognized for it.
Why?
I don't know.
You gotta kill that ego, take a heroic dose of shroomies.
Yeah. It's going to cross to the other side to find out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there was this quote I read. I don't remember who it was. But he said at the end of the day, like, your family is who's going to remember you when you're gone. So I guess learning, like, the balance of my time with my wife and the kids, and I don't know.
Why do you think it's this absolute thing that you won't be recognized, like, in a broader way?
Honestly, I think for me, it's like seeing all these people who are known, or like even people in the circle of like, you know, that guy's known for, he's a good plumber, so you should talk to him. And like, I've never felt in my life like I'm that person that they're like, oh, talk to him because he knows that. And so, like, I guess for me, is like, is that a good ambition, or, yeah, I don't know.
You gotta listen to some of Nate Weisen's music. He talks about that once. It's got this song that's like, you're here and gone in a couple years and memories disappear. What legacy is left behind when you're gone and out of time?
It's so true.
Shout out to Nate Weisen.
Yeah, listen to him.
Anywhere
think-
music is streamed.
I think you got something to offer, man. I think you got something to offer.
You got a voice on a podcast to offer first and foremost.
Yes,
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has been fun. I appreciate guesting on here.
We wouldn't take somebody on, just anybody on, you know, to do this with us. So you got.
Well, I'm very.
We treat this like
that's
marriage.
a reflection.
We wouldn't get
That's
with
a
just
reflection
anybody.
of us recognizing that you have something to offer, dog.
No, I appreciate that. It's been very nice to connect with people who you can just talk to and be real, because that's definitely something I've struggled with too. Is like, I don't know, you know, being able to say, hey, I don't know how I feel about God, or I don't know how about, and oftentimes I've felt like, well, you just need stronger faith, or you need to pray through that, and it's like, I don't know, that hasn't worked, so I'm left with a lot of questions.
Nate Weisen sings about that too.
Go listen to Nate Weisen.
So that
Shameless plugs aside, that's the one thing that you said kind of attracted you to the podcast, right? Is like, hey, somebody else is here in the area that actually shares some struggles and has questions about things, and you know, here you are.
One thing that I think of, or not think of, one goal that I have in mind for this podcast is to cultivate a culture of people to have discussions and conversations like this, and to find a sense of community in the fact that we're in the in-between, right? We don't really have a nuzzled in little narrative purpose of what we believe is going on necessarily. We're we're skeptical about many things, and
Yeah, I think where I'm at in life is it's harder for me to be around narrow-mindedness than it is open-mindedness. So, but I feel like that's very rare. It's very rare.
Oh,
like,
man.
I know all three of us could sit here and we could disagree on something, but it wouldn't ever be like,
totally be fine with it.
yeah, like we don't even care. And
Yeah.
that is like
I've gotten to the point.
hyper rare.
I've gotten to the point where it's frustrating to talk to people that are narrow-minded.
Yes.
It's like you can't even consider an idea that's outside of your spectrum of belief. It's like, how did you get that belief system in the first place? You had to be taught. At one point, you were moldable, so why are you so closed-minded now? Like, why do you want to stop learning? Like, are you scared of truth? Are you scared that something's going to shake the foundation of your belief system? Like,
I really think that's a huge key component of it. And also, I don't know, there's like comfort in being confident, right? But I think that leads people to just blindly believe also. Like we talked about like Armageddon and the apocalypse in a previous episode, and one thing that made me think is like our Revelations being translated as end times is like as recent as the, I think, 19th century, for it being like super mainstream, but nobody goes back to even think like, where did my thoughts stem from on this? They just hold to it, and then
Many early church fathers did recognize it as being historical events.
yeah, and then I think my major beef has been like segregating people, and I don't mean that in a racist way, like even just like I think we touched on when we talked about hell of like, oh, you disagree with me, so that's where you're going. And I know you sing about that. I heard that.
Yeah, Nate Visen does.
Yeah. And
Eternity, check it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. So that's like makes me very frustrated. But
I agree. It certainly is frustrating. The ostracization. Sometimes I can't get my words out.
Ostracization.
That
100%.
it's really easy for people to do that when you have your clique, your group. You know, the gatekeepers. We cast you out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gatekeepers are the poison of anything that they're
almost feels like
gatekeeping.
they want to see you fail when you leave too,
Oh yeah, I think
so they can say, "Ha! I told you so."
I know I can't. That was one of my major things for the past church. Was it was like every time somebody left, it's like, oh well, now they're hellbound.
Something
and
bad
don't
happens
do
to
that.
them.
Yeah, but then stuff was happening to people in there too. It's like,
Well, if it happens to them, it is the wicked persecuting the just. Steely, get your facts straight.
damn it, I forgot. No,
So, it's interesting. Today's episode, I want to kind of traverse memories of our past with the goal of shaping a overall story, you know? Story of...
Influential moments
Yes.
that shaped our path in lives.
Yes. And so...
We'll get into the girth of the episode here.
Yes.
The meat and potatoes. So, your idea, so why don't you start it off?
Well, I was going to start with my first question to you guys,
Uh-oh.
and I will also give my answer. What is your very first memory? If you claw down to the bottom of your memory chest, what's the very first thing you remember?
See, I got a bunch of early memories, but trying to order them into what would have been the first one. Like, I
have
feel
one.
like my memories may have started around like 4 or 5. I remember we moved here in 2000. I was born in 95. Before we moved here, we were in a house on the north side of south side of Sturgis. And I remember there was a tree in the yard that grew straight up 90 degrees to the side and then straight up again. There was a neighbor who had a kid my age in a sandbox. And I would walk across our yard to their house and play with that guy's daughter in the sandbox. No idea who those people are anymore. Yeah, just playing in the sandbox. In the same house.
That was your that girl was your first friend memory?
First friend memory, yeah. And then another memory in that house is I remember I was eating these Pringles potato chips, the regular ones in the red can.
Ooh.
And my dad, knowing I hate salt and vinegar chips,
I love them.
but they're the same color, right? So he snuck one in the middle of the pile of my regular chips. And he was out in the garage.
and Trooper pranking.
And I remember I got to that chip and took a bite out of it. And I took the rest of the chip out to the garage where he was doing something. And I opened the door of the garage and I threw it on the ground. And I went back inside.
How old were you?
Probably like 4.
What, did he notice it?
Yeah, he looked.
Did he think it was funny?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I would think that's funny.
What about you, Steel?
yeah, I feel like the earliest is saying it's similar, 3 or 4. I mean, if the one I can only remember a little is my dad was going to Alaska, and I think it was in '95. So, it's like a blip. It's more just like I remember going into the airport gift shop, and they had a yellow plane that I wanted. And it was while we were waiting before they flew. And that's all I remember. I just remember kind of being in there. And my parents said it was South Bend Airport. And then I think around, I know it was before I could swim. My parents took me swimming, and I was in like an inner tube, like tire style or whatnot. And they were kind of off to the side, and I was like laying in it, and then I slipped through it, and I couldn't swim. So I was under the water, and I could see them, and they didn't see me for like a solid second or two. And I was like, I was beginning to drown because I was under the water.
How old were you?
Like 4.
Weird.
I think. But yeah, that's those are probably like the 2 earliest, I think, that I for sure know that I've recalled without having seen like a photo. I don't know, because then I have, would that be the Mandela? I don't know if that's quite where I think like I have a memory, but then I think it's maybe because I've seen a picture or a photo,
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, and I don't know. But those I know, like I've brought up to my parents, and they're like, oh, you remember that?
That's a funny story, dude. When I was 7, I went to one of my homies' birthday parties, and I was in the shallow end of the pool and took a step back a little too far, and I fell back into the water in the deep end. I couldn't swim. I currently
remembers their first drowning.
And I remember looking up and seeing the top of the water and like bubbles coming from me.
Yeah.
And the next thing, I just don't remember what's after that. But apparently the kid's party, his mom dove in and pulled me out and saved me. And like I kind of vaguely remember being on the ground and like just seeing like a bunch of kids like circled around and looking at me.
So my first memory would be, I think it must have been Noah's birthday. Yes, it was Noah's birthday. He got this little yellow alphabet computer. Or when you push it, it says ABC, ICUP. We do all kinds of fun stuff like that with it, but and he also got this little silver laser gun where when you push pull the trigger, the barrel lights up with these like rainbow flashing colors. And I remember later that evening, after Noah opened up all the presents, we probably had some cake and ice cream. Me and my dad were sitting out on the front porch. It's boarded up now, but it used to be open screen. And we were sitting on the couch out there looking out, and it was open screen, and the stars were out that night, and we were sitting out on the couch pretending we were Power Rangers in a spaceship flying through the cosmos. And I was like pulling the trigger of the laser gun, shooting aliens. That's my first memory.
Your first memory includes aliens, dog.
I have another memory, but I will not talk about it in this episode.
Were you traumatized?
Definitely.
Were you abused?
Don't want to talk about it.
You gotta talk about it now.
Oh, that's ominous. No.
So, in your childhood, what is a feeling that you remember being present throughout your childhood? You remember that was like how you felt a lot of the time?
I don't want to bring... I got you.
What?
I got you.
Between the time of like your first memory to 12, per se.
To 12. The same one that plagued me up until my 20s. And that is I don't want to bring like a dark thing to the podcast, but it is what it is. Right? My dad's parenting was always super strict, and things that I didn't even know that he would see me do, he would bring up later conveniently when he would yell at me. So I was always, in the back of my mind, felt like I was being watched, even if I was totally by myself. And yes, to the Christians, God is always watching, the universe, whatever.
Right.
Beyond that, like I felt like there was somebody always watching me that would judge me or like point out something I did that was wrong.
And that probably led to your something I'd like you to talk about, the religious OCD, like the praying.
Yeah, we talked about that before, but the religious OCD,
I think that was on one of those unreleased episodes.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So you gotta talk about it now.
So...
Revisit your trauma. Come on.
Okay, so where do I start with it out of that? So it would be considered religious OCD. You know, there's multiple kinds of OCD. Just research it for yourself, I guess. But the religious one basically was I was indoctrinated so heavily with the Bible growing up that, like all the extremist ways, like the fear of hell and, you know, like feeling like everything that you do is judged and probably evil, but misinterpreting a lot of things that I was hearing from church and school and whatnot, because I went to a Christian school too. Like, whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it as if unto the Lord and not unto men. And living a life like Jesus and following his example. And, well, Jesus was perfect, so I must have to be perfect. And everything I do has to be perfect because I'm doing it for God. So that would turn into, I would pray, and what would be like probably a 5-minute prayer would take me like 2 hours, because I would like repeat the same things over and over again because I felt like I would say it wrong, or it like I had to say it all within a certain number of breaths, and if I did it wrong, then I'd start completely over at the beginning, you know, because if I didn't and I'm not doing everything good, like as if unto the Lord, then something bad would happen to me, along the lines of like, oh, my dad's gonna die in a car crash coming home from work, or my uncle's gonna get sucked into a hay baler and get skewered to death, like just off the wall stuff like that. Constantly afraid. And like one time I remember I was lining up these books on the corner of my computer desk, just like 2 devotional books and a Bible, like 3 books, and I was trying to line them perfectly up on the corner of the desk, and I kept doing it. It would be wrong, so I'd take them off the desk, hold them in my hands, put them back on the corner, trying to line them up. Well, I couldn't hold my breath long enough. Take them off, put them up there again. And the reason I finally quit was an hour and a half later of doing that, I was covered in sweat and bawling my eyes out because I was so frustrated. You know, another time I was playing video games, literally to take my mind off stuff like that, because it was from the minute I wake up to the minute I fall asleep, I'm thinking about these things. And, you know, I was done playing. It's an N64, so I had the corded controller. I'd wrap the cord up, put the controller on the console, turn the console off, turn the TV off. Did it wrong. Turn the TV on, turn the console on, unwrap the controller, wrap it back up, put it on the console off, TV on, console on, unwrap controller, wrap it back up, console off, blah, blah, blah. 2 hours later, my dad couldn't get me to stop. He ended up calling my grandpa to come down and talk sense into me somehow. So I quit before he got there and just locked myself in the bathroom so they couldn't mess me up, because I felt like it was like, no, don't have him interrupt me because like something bad's going to happen. And
even though the very people you're trying to like protect per se were trying to get you to stop.
Yeah. And it finally ended. Somehow I just happened to hear the right things from the right preachers. Whether or not it was taking scripture out of context, at the end of the day it helped. Specifically pointing out the people that stand on the street corners thinking their prayers are going to be heard because of their many words, and the different religious stuff, like back when James McDonald had a lot of sermons, it was like his stuff that, you know, at the time it was what I needed to hear, and I kind of got rid of it.
Keep your prayer short and in solitude.
Yeah, and then it went right back into it again a couple years later. And then after, like, you know, when you pray, go into your closet so no one well, I did that, literally. And, like, you know, I'd be late for school. My senior year, I was always late for school because I'd be in my closet praying, and I couldn't stop because I felt like I had to do it perfectly before leaving. You know, like I had this girlfriend at the time. She would come over to pick me up sometimes. I go to her house to pick her up sometimes and go to school. Well, I made her late once because she's sitting there waiting out. Like, I don't know why the frick she even stayed with me. Like, bless her heart. But for everything I put her through, like not bad, but just that, like constantly waiting for me to stop being psycho, you know? And eventually, the same deal there. I heard the right things at the right time.
You've always been a very lovable person, though, John.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, I just heard the right stuff at the right time eventually that I got out of it, and now, like, I can pretty confidently say it's not going to happen again. Yeah, right. Although I feel like echoes of it here and there.
Do you think that, and then I would like to go to you next, Steeley. Do you think that the early memory you mentioned of your dad bringing up all the things he saw you do, and do you think
Yes.
that shaped how you viewed God and going forward and your prayer? The feeling of being watched and you got to do everything right.
Yes.
That created so much anxiety. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And like, man,
Do you think that
I even felt sometimes like when I was watching TV, somebody was on the other side of the TV watching me sitting there on the couch, what I was doing. Like, it was constant. I'd be out playing with the goats and I'd feel like somebody's just watching me, not to like attack, not like a anxious or like paranoid, but just like that somehow whatever I do is going to be judged. I'm going to be yelled at for it, made fun of for it, whatever. You know, that's why my music has taken so long to take, you know, for me to release it, because of that cursed fear of man, you'd call it.
What about you, Still? What's a feeling that you remember being very present throughout your adolescence?
I've literally, I've never thought of that question until now, so I'll just go with intuition a little bit. I want to feel like to like 5 and 6, I remember feeling happy a lot, because I think my mom had the joy of me, and then my brothers were all, I have 4 brothers for anybody who wouldn't know. We were all close together, 2 years gap. But then I don't know exactly what shifted. I want to say, because I'll tell you, you'll find out you're not alone with your OCD battles. Like, I want to say like 6 or 7, I started having random compulsions, which was, for me, it was similar, I think. And my mom definitely had a tumultuous upbringing. I doubt she'll ever hear this, but I won't throw her under the bus. And then, like, for her and my dad, they both were, like, saved out of what they would say was, like, you know, their poor lifestyles.
Yeah.
So I think, and again, this is where hell has been so formative for me as well, of the basis being you needed to shape up or you're going to spend eternity suffering. So my mom took that to an extreme of ingraining in us, like, I would say fundamentalism. So everything needs to be according to the Bible, and this is what you need to do. But she would kind of scare us with stuff. I don't know. Mine started, I don't remember my first compulsions where I felt like I had to tell her bad thoughts that I had. And the first one I can
confess.
Yeah, and like the first one, and it was like they would be benign, but it was like, and they wouldn't even be things I actually believed. I felt bad that I had a bad thought. I remember she brought me home these monster truck pajamas that I had really wanted, and I was like wearing them, and then I was like, oh, I feel like I should tell you, like, I don't actually like these. But that wasn't true. But I was like, I had this thought, and I mean, for sure, my mom didn't even know how to handle, like, a lot of this.
It was almost like impulsive, maybe.
Yeah, like I felt like I had to tell her I had this bad thought.
I didn't mean to laugh at that.
No. I mean, when you can look back on it, you can find kind of humor in the maybe maniacism a little at times.
Yeah, that's one thing about you bringing up that.
Plot twist. I actually don't like.
That's one thing. Like a lot of the stuff in the past, like, to me, only because of years of shaping my mind into basically just, in my own mind, not being a pussy anymore, I discredit those events of the past. Like, I don't talk about them, but it's not because it makes me uncomfortable. It's because, to me, that's not part of my life anymore. It's insignificant. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, like here, maybe it's good to talk about it, because if somebody else is dealing with something like that, like, you know, you're not alone, and there is a way to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, there's probably value in that sometimes I discredit, because to me it's just something I dealt with, it's in my past, and it is dealt with now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to forget about it. Not because, like, I sit up at night crying about it if I do think about it, but just because, like, what's the point? I'm more focused on what I'm doing now and what's ahead in the future. But, yeah, thanks for asking that, because I think that is important, you know, to bring up sometimes. Not to, discredit what you've been through because it's already there and gone, but like other people aren't there yet, or
And sometimes it's not as gone, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic by saying this, but sometimes it's not as gone as like we think it is.
There'll be something that happens. It's been years, and you remember something, you think of something,
And then you're like, wow, I haven't thought about that in years. And then you think about all the ways that it's also connected to you today.
Yeah.
like so I would say a feeling that was present through much of my childhood was the feeling of not being liked, feeling alone, feeling unloved. I think being homeschooled had a lot to do with that. I had this feeling, regardless if it was valid or not, I had this feeling growing up that my family didn't like me. Not trying to throw my parents under the bus either. You know, my parents, they ran a business and also homeschooled us, and like they would argue a lot in front of us. And I just didn't feel like I feel like again, regardless if it's valid or not, I felt like my own family didn't like me, and just so much of my childhood was in like isolation. You know, I wouldn't see anybody till really church on the weekends, and then.
Was your family and your parents like who you looked up to during that time? If that was like pretty much all you were around,
Yeah, I really looked up to my dad.
the ones whose approval you seek the most.
Certainly, yeah.
That probably makes it harder then, yeah.
It would seem like my mom, like, in retrospect, she was probably really battling with, like, postpartum depression. You know, because, like, I remember earlier years, like, prior to 5, like, it was, like, fun, happiness, everybody getting along. And then when my sister was born, I wasn't, like, I remember, like, I was the baby of the family, and, like, I would get, like, all the attention from my parents, basically, and then Sarah's born, and I didn't get as much attention, and then, like, I didn't really have any friends. I wasn't very socialized, you know, and I felt like my siblings didn't like me. I felt like I was always doing something to make Sarah cry, so I was always getting in trouble. And, you know, I was homeschooled. The only socialization or, like, teaching about how to interact with people was from my parents. So, like, if I was making the baby cry, you know, perhaps my parents should have, like, taught me how to not make a baby cry, you know? Like, maybe.
I wanted to hang out with you a lot more when we were young after I met your sister.
Oh, my God.
But I have a quick question for you two, only because I've been doing a lot of reading on trauma. And would you guys both say that your fathers were very present in your life through, let's say, formative years, but like up to 8, 9, 10?
Too much so.
Yes and no.
Too sheltering and controlling to where, like, all I wanted was to rebel and see what the rest of this world's all about, rather than the little cult of my dad that I was kept in. Which I've told that to my uncles, and they always nod their head in agreement when they hear me say that. They're like, yep, that sounds like him.
Could you repeat your question?
Like, did you feel like your father was present in your life through formative years, or?
Yes and no. Like, we would be there, but I feel like he has these qualities that I also recognize in myself, these avoidant tendencies, you know? So, though he was there, I felt like there was a lot within the household and in, like, fathership that he was being avoidant of. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because one trauma that I run into that I've tried to actively work through, or I would say, I think it's trauma related to my dad not being present through.
Because there was
like,
a period of time that he was gone.
Yes, there was both that, but then prior, he I don't want to be too dark, but we're kind of a part of my family's past is my dad's parents were both killed. And then he was separated from his sisters through adoption. And so he really didn't have a solid father figure himself. Then here he is. They started having us when he was 23 and my mom was 20, so 10 years younger than me having kids. And I just don't think he knew how to be a dad. And his temperament is sort of shutting down and kind of withdrawing. So as a young kid, he wasn't really around. And one of my traumas I have is like feeling like I'm not good enough or like I need validation. And they say like a absent father can kind of, I don't know. I've
had that feeling my whole life.
Yeah. I never feel good enough at anything. And yeah,
regardless if it's when I'm practicing singing, when I'm picking up 515 pounds, when I worked an 80-hour week.
Yeah, now that you mention that.
Putting a podcast out, I never feel like anything's good enough. Even if there's a lot of people complimenting me, I'm like,
same.
They're probably just saying that. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they think I'm hot or something and they're complimenting.
Or it's like they just don't have the experience in a certain area that I do. I see the errors and the shortcomings, and specifically the music thing. Mm-hmm. So like I hear that sour note.
And a very technical guy already.
Yeah,
I'm sure you.
Like I hear that sour note. I hear that one little
out of the compliment.
I hear that one little slur in my voice right there. That this person that's listening to music, they probably didn't even hear it because they're not listening for that stuff. Because either A, they're not a musician. B, they're not a performer. C, they're not a audio engineer. Or D, they don't listen to the same genre I do, so they don't know what to listen for. You know, like just all those things. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know. And music that I'm trying to make on this album number 2, like there's issues that I hate about the first album that I'm trying to address on this one. And man, I've been sitting on a couple songs for several months trying to just tweak the final little touches on them, you know? There's ones that are totally finished, and I'm like, man, if I would have said keep those instead of keep them in this one line right here, it would have been better. So like I'm constantly like changing stuff like that just to that perfection, you know.
I heard it. I don't know if I want to bring this book up yet. Maybe at some point because it's very often. It had an excellent quote though. It said, "Perfectionists will create goals that are either unachievable or once they've achieved a goal, they'll think that it was not worth attaining in the first place." And I was like, man,
wow.
Do I resonate?
Or you get imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Your imposter syndrome where you're just waiting for everybody to find out that you're a fraud and you actually don't belong here.
Yep.
That's something that a lot of successful people, Joe Rogan's talked about it, like you just get there and you wait, they're gonna be like, there he is, he snuck in here.
Dude, that's the thing too, man, like doing the rap, right? I feel like my lyricism is at the point where I've wanted it to be for years. And it's getting better. But I'm an imposter because I can't freestyle. It's rap. You have to be able to freestyle. Like somebody should play a beat and I should be on there with like 200 bars ready to go.
But a lot of your songs are composed in such a way to where the chorus is singing.
Well, that's normal. That's
are you gonna
normal in the genre. A lot of them aren't.
That wouldn't be in a freestyle, though, would it?
No, a hook's a hook. You freestyle verses, you freestyle 16s, you freestyle 4s, 8s, 12s. You know, you should just have them on lock in your head, just ready to pop off, ready to go. When a rap battle comes your way, you should be able to, like, slaughter whoever you're going up against and just belittle them and insult them in the most funny and lyrically intricate way possible. And I do not have that ability. Like, I have stuff written that I can, like, recite, but, like, I have to really dig through my brain to pull them up, because, like, I've written over 100,000 words of lyrics at this point. You know what I mean? Like, this... all my new stuff is in progress, like, that I have memorized is in the works, like they're not done. So it's like, what do I come up with an 11 bar thing, and then I'm like thrown off on the rhythm of this beat they're playing for a freestyle. My old 16s that I used to have memorized are so far, like 5 years, 6 years old, that I can't hardly remember all of them anymore. If I leave out one line, then it throws everything off. It's like, but I'm a rapper, I have to be able to do that. But there's other rappers that can't, you know? It's like...
Even broader than being a rapper, you're a songwriter, you know?
Same difference.
Same difference.
A real rapper writes all their own stuff. Some may have a producer, but it's not necessary. The goal of rap is to bring it with the lyrics, I think. The storytelling and the lyricism. Some of us, there's quite a few, make our own music also. Yeah. We are our own producers. You don't have to be. But some of us are, and we take pride in that.
Well, like, and you talked about it earlier on in the episode about accessing a way of training yourself to access the creativity, the muse. You put a lot of your efforts towards songwriting, you know. I know that's much of what you do in your free time.
Yeah, pen to paper.
Yeah.
Writtens is what I'm...
the same...
I have their skill on the writtens, but not the freestyles. You would
have the same level of progress that you just got to practice at it.
This is true.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not putting time into that. Yeah. It makes me feel like an imposter because this is a skill that I need to have. But at the same time, I'm trying to learn the marketing and the music production and then the songwriting, the recording, the performance.
Your album, just go on a spree to where you're like freestyling. Not only freestyling, maybe publicly freestyling to really shake things up.
Well, that's given. Like, that is freestyle. You don't freestyle by yourself except to practice.
Yes, yeah. But you can practice while you're, trucking, freestyling, and then lay it down.
I got a couple homies that we will freestyle back and forth to.
Yeah, you
That's
guys
a
just need
practice,
to go to a park or somewhere.
Oh, he's like in
start freestyling,
Minnesota, I think.
Well,
we're gonna go on a road trip, I guess. Okay, so to get back to the memories, we were talking about imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the earlier years of being in business with my lawn care business, I'd be cleaning up somebody's yard. They'd be standing there watching me, and I'd be thinking to myself, oh, they probably hate this job. They're probably so unhappy with this work that I'm doing. And then later on, after I left their house and I finished the job, I'd get a text message from them that they didn't need to send to me. They just did it out of the goodness of their hearts. But they were like, everything looks great. We're grateful that we found you and that you're able to come work for us. Or whatever.
There you go, man.
And I remember just thinking to myself, like, okay, so this is like what they were really thinking. Where did all of this come from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it has to, again, going back to you think you're out of it, and then one day out of the blue, out of nowhere, this pattern unravels that you kind of, you string it back to your childhood, like this, that's where I bring it back to, this feeling of like not being good enough because just so many aspects of being homeschooled and just not having that socialization, the social validation, the feeling, just the being rejected, being bullied, all of that, the negative and the good, not really having much of it to experience other than being at home, and the vibe between my family has never been like I've seen you and your brothers hug each other and be like happy, almost friends hanging out like that. Just a lot of our childhood wasn't really like the vibe. It just seemed like we didn't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think a lot of that's connected to unresolved issues between my parents that we just kind of had to bear witness to because we were at home all the time, being homeschooled. Mm-hmm. But my question is like, okay, so next in your childhood, where's a place that you found great like resolve and inspiration from, like the remedy to much of what, like the negative feelings that did persist? When would be a moment where like
you had like a burning bush you encountered, to where in the midst of all that you saw a little flicker of
Easy.
hope.
Easy. My fear of man was shattered because I was part of this band. It was a Christian worship band that they did this thing called treasure hunting, where a group of like 20, 30 of us...
Geocached?
Nope, nothing to do with it. We'd get together in a group of like 20 or 30, break off into 3 or 4 people, teams, and we go out and do good deeds for people. Whether pray for them, wash their car, pump their gas, buy their groceries, help an old man carry something heavy, whatever. And when you do that, right, the very first time we did it, I was thinking, like, I hope I'm in Katie's group, because she's outgoing and she'll carry the weight of the actions we need to take, and I can just be along for the ride. Well, no, I got put with some very shy people, and one guy was pretty outgoing, but not in this context what we were doing. So, driving to the first place, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to lead this, because otherwise I don't want to be the group that comes back with no stories, you know? So, we go out, and it's a whole story, just what happened on these events, but basically, over the course of doing them for long enough, and then performing on stage every weekend, I got to this point where, you know, you go up and ask somebody in Walmart to pray for them, and some of them are like, no, get the F out of here with your, like, religion. Like, I'm not interested. I'm like, are you sure? Like, yes. Like, dude, I'm gonna, like, go have them kick you out or something. Like, just people are rude. Obviously, the majority of people are like, sure, yeah. But, like, you're always afraid of that one that's gonna blow up at you. And once enough of them do, you start to realize that's the worst that's gonna happen. So eventually it was like it wasn't like a breaking a hole through the wall kind of life-altering moment, but it was a practiced thing where eventually the fear of man in me got shaken down, and I then had the superpower, I would call it, man, of like being able to go up to anybody I dang well please and talk about anything I want to, because I'm not really afraid anymore of what they're going to do or say, because at the end of the day, especially if it's a stranger, like, I'm not going to lose a friend over this. Like, I don't even know these people. Like, I mean, obviously, like, the whole Me Too thing, you know, you got to watch it with flirting with certain women, but it's not that you're afraid to anymore. And having that, it's like, I'm not living to please this person. And if they don't like me, it doesn't matter. And that's one thing I keep telling myself over and over again with the music. It's like, if somebody doesn't like it, that's not my market. That's not my audience. Because there's going to be people that like what you do and hate what you do no matter what. The thing is, if there's never anybody that hates you, you're not doing anything worthy of being liked.
Same with this podcast. Like, if you like it, you like it. Some people it will probably totally catch fire with, and some people,
yeah,
not really their vibe.
They're going to hear some of my jokes and be like, F that guy.
What about you, Still?
Yeah, I want to say, honestly, I don't feel like I had that till like 7 years ago.
Okay.
Because for me, it was so kind of the young childhood feeling like I didn't have a present dad, to we went to going through a phase where he wasn't around. Then when he did come back, it was 4 or 5 years still of like my mom and him kind of reestablishing it. Like, it wasn't healthy still even then. So like I was about 18 when things maybe felt like they were kind of on the same page again. And then, you know, I think for like the next 7-ish years of that, it was kind of, I think I felt like I thought I had found kind of that spark through like the strict adherence to Old Testament stuff. So I thought then I had found what was fixing me, but yeah, 7 years ago was more when I actually had a legitimate breakthrough where I was like, you know, what I've been, I don't know, I could see light at the end of the tunnel.
I would say a big moment for me. Everything okay?
Mm-hmm.
Where we at on town?
Just checking. 54 minutes.
Holy cow. A big one for me was, it was around the time, it's weird. The only reason, it felt like near the end of when we were attending Messiah Fellowship, the only reason my family was still attending there was because of me. And that I was still a Higherite at that point. And I just Messiah Fellowship would put a strong emphasis on this place is special. Are you called here? Where are you called? So I started asking myself, where was I called? We were going to other places a lot. We go to Schwartz's, City on a Hill. And a big moment for me was one day it was after a Bible study. We were sitting outside. Every week the church would have a potluck. Everybody would bring food and we'd eat food afterwards. And so some of us were chilling out, on the patio furniture eating. And we got into a biblical discussion. I was 14 at the time. I was maybe more like 15. But the adults in the group, they did know that I, took my Bible seriously, and for a youngster, I studied it a lot. And we were sitting there having the discussion, and one of the guys said, "What do you think, Isaiah? What do you think about that?" And I hadn't been asked that at Messiah Fellowship. One of the older fellows during men's Bible study never asked me, "What do you think about that, Isaiah?" And I remember feeling a sense of belonging there that I'd never felt before. And I still struggle with it, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of being an outsider, many of these feelings there are still somewhat experienced, but that was kind of like a flicker in my childhood to where
I remember City on a Hill. That's where I met your sister, actually.
oh my God. Stop with my sister. She's a married woman now, and you're a married man.
There's no intentions here, just saying. Talking about memories after all.
She listens to this podcast, by the way.
Oh, shout out to Sarah. What's up?
Shout out to Sarah. Only sister. Well, that's not entirely true.
Sorry, I blocked you on Snapchat years and years ago. I did it to every woman I knew. No offense. Nothing personal.
That's probably why that one friend you mentioned that you've been reaching out to won't get back with you.
I probably blocked her too, yeah.
She was offended.
That's why I messaged her on Facebook instead of Snapchat, 'cause she's blocked. Yeah.
What is your first memory of, or what are some of your memories of very things that kind of shifted you to where you're at now in terms of questioning things, in terms of maybe a flicker of the supernatural to where you experienced something of that sort?
Hanging out on a bridge with some of my friends. I went for a little walk.
A significant thing that somebody said that maybe nudged you to the present moment.
Ooh.
Important part.
I have two answers for that.
You guys both can go hog wild. I'm here to listen.
Well, this is a whole story that takes me 40 minutes to tell it. But the nutshell is I was on a bridge with some friends. Went on a walk. Saw a car drive by me. Going up and over the hill that you top this hill and you're going right down to the bridge. Well, this car passed. It was like twilight. I kind of ducked down in the weeds because I didn't want anybody to be like, "Hey, what are you doing out here?" Because it's a dead end road, but we're just hanging out at the little river on this bridge goes over.
Just teenagers hanging out.
Yeah, innocent.
Weren't doing any drugs or anything like that.
No, literally we're just hanging out by the
churchgoers.
freaking water. This is my best friend and his girlfriend at the time. I see this car go over the hill, down past them. It would have had to go past them because there's nothing to pull off into. And, I kept walking, saw another car. And anyway, I went far enough, maybe an eighth of a mile. And I hear this scream. And I think it's the girl that was with my best friend back at the bridge. And I was like, dude, what the frick? Because it sounded, even if it wasn't her, it was definitely closer to them than it was to me. So I take off running back because I'm like, dude, what the frick happened? And while I'm running back, I had the only moment like this in my entire life. even until now. But I had this vision, and it was like I wasn't conscious of myself running anymore. Wasn't conscious of anything going on around me. I was just fully entranced in this vision. And I saw this car that passed me parked over at the edge of the bridge, and the guy out of the car holding a gun to my best friend who was on his knees with his hands on his head, and he shot him, and the scream I heard was his girlfriend screaming when that happened. So leading up to that point, a bunch of things that I was learning about God recently, some kind of weird synchronization or something, because it was just constantly learning this lesson that God is not bound by time. He can affect the future and the past and the present equally. And when I was running back, this vision ended, and like all of a sudden, whew, I'm back in my body and I'm running. I'm like, what? Like, I'm kind of, my mind's racing. Like, what was that? Like, I just saw like either now or the future, like remotely somehow. So I started praying on the way back. Like, if that.
Real quick, I do want to say I was being totally serious when I said they weren't doing any drugs. Because, like, if you hear this story and you think they were doing drugs, that, like.
that actually lends credibility to the story. There was zero
totally
going on.
They were, like.
No alcohol, no weed, no explicit, like, absolutely nothing. Yes. Like, I still haven't done anything except drink and smoked a little weed in college, but this is way before all that. And so I'm running back and I'm praying, like, God, if that just happened, or if that's about to happen, I pray that none of it would, because I know that you're not bound by time. And if I pray for something to change in the past, you can do it. And same with the future. And I run back, I get to the top of the hill, and I duck behind, like, the guardrail that starts this going down to the bridge. I'm looking, I don't see anybody or anything. I go up to them, and I see this little phone screen by the edge of the water, like right where I left them sitting. And I walk up there, and there they are. And I'm like, yo, what was that? And they both look at me, and the chick's like, what was what? And I'm like, that scream. I'm like, what scream? Was that not you? I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, okay, did you hear that scream? I'm like, no. Okay, what about that car that came over the bridge? And they're like, what car? And I'm like, I watched a car go over the hill.
And you're confident they weren't, like, joshing with you?
Yes. As soon as that car would start going down the hill, its headlights would have been on the bridge. Like, there's nothing here but woods and embankments that you can't drive up on either side of the road. And they're like, no car has gone through here, like, the entire time. We would have noticed. And I'm like, what? So, the rest of the details aside from the story that just make it more interesting, I'll tell it a different time, because it's a long story. But that kind of shaped my view of God in a way it's like, okay, this isn't the man in the sky. This is like some uncomprehendable power that God, or whatever we view God as, has, or is, or whatever, I don't know. But I learned a lesson that day that even time is, like, God is not bound by time. It is as fluid to him as length, width, and height is to us. Like, it is manipulatable, malleable. He can travel throughout it as he pleases, or maybe he's just existent in all time, everywhere, all, like, you know, I don't, like, truly omnipresent. Like, not just everywhere right now, but everywhere all the time. And that's a big thing that I drew from that I still think about that pretty frequently, even to this day. That definitely shaped my view of God. And your other question, something that shaped us to get where we're at. This one's real quick and short and sweet. 7th or 8th grade, creative writing assignment. One of my teachers looked at my writing. She looked at me after class, told me to wait behind. She's like, Jonathan, you have a gift for writing. And I'm telling you, she might not have thought it meant much, but man, dude, I think of that almost, like, at least weekly. I think of that moment. And, like, she recognized something back then. you know. And whether it's a gift for writing or just a gift to learn quickly, and writing was just what I was focusing on at the moment, either way, like that definitely keeps me going through times of writer's block. Even though who the frick cares what she said back then, this teacher that has no bearing in my life anymore. But I'm telling you, that one moment right there, that was pivotal in my life.
Right, because even like, regardless of what happened, something certainly happened. That psychological phenomenon that you don't know how to frame it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
The bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. It was the experience of having a vision, man. Like,
and then
just not knowing what that was ever like. But honestly, I know now what the frick it's like to have a vision.
And then clearly the lady who said that had a big, like, that was a big nudge for you.
Mrs. Pomeroy.
Being a writer. And it just saw an adult recognizing something in you at a young age that maybe you didn't have a lot of people recognizing stuff, you know.
At the age where I was in the height of that fearing what people thought moment, you know,
right.
And
maybe,
just hearing that
maybe you're
at that time,
the opposite of that, fear of man, you know, and you.
Yeah, I got approval of one of the bigger authority figures in my life at the time.
Not only that, but it was an observation, them watching you, and it's like they notice something that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
now that you put it that way, yeah.
As opposed to where, like, that was probably almost soothing to where it's like somebody, because I notice you do like it when, like, people do, like, I'll say something like it's a compliment that you actually agree with, that I'm making an observation about you, and you know, it's like,
I always look at when you say stuff like that, true or not true, I'm like, dude, thank you for saying that, for recognizing that.
and it's like, I think that's probably connected to that feeling that was created by your dad, you know, like the maybe the remedy is the opposite to the. It's the opposite, but in some ways similar, because somebody's observing and pointing that out. Like, I saw you do this thing. It was good.
Yeah, because in my brain, I'm at the point, just through years of practicing to get there, of I honestly don't care. Like, if I show you a song, if you like it, cool. If you don't, equally affects me emotionally. Like, I can honestly throw my hands in the air and say, I don't care. It means nothing to me. But when you do give me a compliment, it doesn't affect me. But I acknowledge it, of like, thank you for saying that, because I don't get that a lot.
Well, social validation, like, there's like, in psychology, there's like, I think 5 predictors of happiness, and social validation and social belonging, 2 of those are like big ones that human needs. It's like it's a very core part of our, like, psychology and what we need as people. You know, we do need to occasionally get validated for our accomplishments and achievements, for our growth. Like, I don't think we should totally run off that. But it's, you know, it's a little bit of salt on the food. Makes the food taste better. What about you, Still?
I would say, I guess I have 2 experiences that I would classify more as not able to explain, I think. The first one, I was like 16 or 17, and I used to go, so my grandma has a hair shop just south of here, actually. And I used to go up there and mow it for her all the time through the summer. And her and my mom were going up to, I think it's Hollywood Nails here in where it used to be Kroger.
Aldi.
And
Aldi.
yeah. And so they went up there to do that, and I was going to go up and, I don't know, meet them to do some other stuff later. So I'm mowing the lawn, and I see this guy walking along the road, like disheveled, big backpack. And I don't remember, my parents always talked a lot about, they thought they had an encounter with what they would say was an angel, and that was always talked about a lot too, of like being mindful of who you see, or because they could be that.
Yes.
And I was always
entertained, because in doing, some of our ancestors have entertained angels.
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce.
So I guess I was definitely always skeptical of that. I can't say I'm like not still, but this certainly I can't explain this event.
Right,
So
like that guy at the dispensary. I've wondered who was
Dude.
that and why did he say that?
right. So I noticed this guy and I'm like, oh, interesting. He's headed towards Sturgis. So the lawn took me about an hour and a half because I'd push mow it, weed eat it.
You're 17.
Yeah, I knew I could drive because but I was recent, and so I finished the lawn. I go up there, I park, I kind of pop.
This shop is actually on the same road that the dispensary I was working at is on.
That's crazy. Sturgis is
on
popping. Yeah, maybe it's
Everything
the same
in
guy.
Sturgis is on Centerville Road. What do you mean?
So I popped in there to say hey, and they were still doing that. So, or no, I parked. I think it was still Goodwill and like the Rena Center there on the corner.
Oh yeah.
So I parked. I think I went into Goodwill, looked around. I come out. That guy that had walked by the shop was at the corner under those buildings, and he had a cart, like a shopping cart, with like his backpack, but he had all this stuff in it too. And I walked up to that corner because if you cross the like parking lot there, that's Hollywood Nails. And I had like the really strong compulsion to talk to him, but I was too scared. So I kind of like looked one more time. I crossed over to the Hollywood Nails, and I was like, man, I should really talk to him. And I turned around, and he was gone. And everything in the cart was gone, too. Like, it was a pretty significant amount of...
The cart was still there?
The cart was still there, but everything... Like, he had enough it would take longer than me running across the street to, like, get out and also disappear. Because it was literally, like, he vanished, and the cart was still there. So that's the first one I can say, like, I still do not know... I told them, I was like, I told them that story, and we were like, eh. Then the other ones I kind of prefaced with you prior to me moving to Denver. I went through a bad breakup. I was questioning a lot of religion, but I was still holding on to, ironically, eating not pork or eating kosher, and I would kind of not work on Saturdays, but that was the maximum that I put on it. Yeah. But I was definitely very... like afraid of going to Denver. I was the first person to move away from our family, in this area in years. But I remember we were all still hanging out at that time, and so prior to that, for weeks I would get scared, and then like clear as a bell, somebody talking to me in my head that I would hear like, "I will make a way for you." And every time I would get really scared and I would hear that, I would just have like incredible peace. I was like, okay. And I think when Isaiah was over once, I was telling my woes of like, I had this terrible breakup here. I want to meet somebody, and I'm like, oh, I might see millions of people. And Isaiah was very pointed of like, I think you're going to go out to Denver and meet your wife. So like, long story short, I get out there. I'm trying to meet people for like 3 months. I'm giving up, and then I see this lady online. I'm like, I'll give one last chance, and I met my wife, and we got married 6 months later. So that's still like bizarrely unexplainable.
Prophet Isaiah,
Yeah, I didn't remember saying that until, like, I do remember saying that, but I didn't remember saying that until you brought that up.
Do you think that guy with the cart was like a missed opportunity for an angel?
Yeah, that's definitely a regret that I really wish I would have talked to him. Like, who knows what would have happened if I had? Maybe it would have been like a benign conversation, but now I guess it always leaves me.
Maybe it was a demon and he would have killed you, and it was like,
you never know. I could have been a serial killer they caught, and I skipped out.
It's like when you pick up a hitchhiker, and the hitchhiker's like, "Why'd you pick me up? How do you know I'm not a serial killer?" And then as the driver, you're like, "What are the odds of 2 serial killers being in the same car?"
I mentioned the stranger at the dispensary. So when I first started this podcast, I had prayed shortly prior to this that if there's a God, I want him to take me on an adventure. And I had just bought podcast equipment. The podcast equipment we're recording with right now, actually.
Shout out to Chase
LeBar. And I was procrastinating about doing it, even though Jonathan, just like the same time I bought this, he moved back, and we had talked about when he moves back, starting a podcast. He didn't tell me he was moving back. He just moved back.
No, you called me one time, and we're talking.
You sent me a Snapchat of your bench press in the basement. And I'm like, that looks like a Michigan basement. And then so
Like your back?
a week after I bought the equipment, I was like procrastinating about what I was going to do or whatever. And then the stranger never came in the dispensary before. You can get on the computers. You can access their previous visits. Hadn't been there before. He looks at me and says, "Are you going to start a podcast?" And I was like, "I just bought podcast equipment a week ago. Why would you ask me that?" He said, "You need to do that. That's going to be a big part of your life journey. Start the podcast."
And this homie's from Chicago.
Yep.
Never been to the dispensary before.
Never.
And you never saw him
Never
again.
met me, so he had no way of knowing about that. Because, every now and then I'd, talk to people or, friends at the dispensary. I'd think about starting a podcast.
So that was like on a Friday, right? And then like the next Sunday we recorded episode 1 or something
Next
like
Tuesday,
that.
yeah. We recorded episode 1. But it's like, who was that? What was going on there? Like, whatever it was, it really, like, it kind of, like, pulled a string that got the song playing,
I think there's something to it that's spiritual, if you ask me.
Well, and I'm trying to look at, can we look back at our lives and can we see a story of growth that we necessarily weren't a part of?
That guy could have been an angel sent to encourage you to start. Or maybe it was a guy in Chicago that felt the strong urge, I need to go to Michigan and tell somebody about a podcast.
Like,
Maybe he was sent by God. I will make it clear to you who to say it to when you see them. And he goes to this dispensary to smoke weed because he's all stressed about life. And he walks in, and God's like, him.
It was
Tell
just
him.
like any other time where you're somewhere and you feel like the need to do something.
Yeah.
And he's just on the other end of that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the way I'm trying to look back at our memories, I'm trying to look back at it with the question is there a story of growth that
Or a
kind
pivotal
of
moment.
unraveled, and you weren't necessarily
You
in
said
control
also
of it.
maybe
You're
a pivotal moment that shaped you to get to where you're at.
Yes. Yeah.
So would it be just that? Nothing before that?
Nothing before that.
Yeah, that kind of shaped your life path to where you're at now?
So, like, one aspect is that you're a singer, songwriter, rapper.
That's right. Hip-hop artist. Lyrical miracles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of that is that lady, your teacher, she recognized that.
Mrs. Pomeroy.
And she did it in a way. She did it in a way that, like, somebody else had did something that caused anxiety. So one person did something that caused it, and I think almost
The yin to the yang.
yeah. Would you say that you finding your wife has that mended a lot of the same way and mended a lot of wounds that maybe the absence of your father created?
Well, one tidbit I would say is that, and I've told people, when my dad re-entered our life, things were still pretty tumultuous, but that's when he genuinely started trying to pour into us.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, he knows this. Like, I tell him he's definitely my hero in the sense of, like, he was, for a long time, the person I didn't want to grow up to be, to now the person I admire, and oftentimes, I mean, I still talk all the time.
And, like, not to paint him in that way of being, like, a bad father, because, like, it's just coming at it from the honest point that people do things,
Mm-hmm.
Grown-ups are kids that grew up and had kids.
Right.
And he had a lot that he had to deal with in terms of growing up and
Yeah, and a
becoming
lot
man.
he never, like, only would more probably recently even tell you he himself worked through too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So not to backtrack a little bit, not to paint that picture, but
needless to say, we do things that affect other people. Like your dad, you know, I'm sure he wasn't like trying to cause that.
Right? No, I would.
I was actually talking to Jonathan about that part. About that.
Hey, don't get me wrong. My dad had
anxiety,
the best of intentions. Other people seeing him from the outside that don't know him that well would have very negative opinions. But because I know him, I can see how he communicates love, and it's different than most people. And I see the good in the intentions behind it. He was not a bad dad, necessarily. Especially, like, at this point, being 30 and looking back on it, like, I see the intentions behind the things that he did. It was to bring out the best son that he could. Just the way that he went about doing it.
We do things
because he didn't know me as well as... Well, I was pretty closed off anyway.
It's first time being a dad.
Didn't bring, like, especially once I started feeling a little bit of that judgmentalism, judgment. I kind of kept myself closed off, and I tried not to show emotion, whether excitement, happiness, sadness. I just tried to be neutral and stoic, just to avoid being reacted to. And you know, now I look back, I'm like, I see how his love languages are at play during that time. I see what his issues and concerns were, and I can't blame him for any of that because I didn't give the guy much to work off of at the same time, you know. But like, all that to say nothing bad about my dad. It's just his parenting style was not good for me personally.
We're coming at it from the angle that parents grow up and have kids, and they're every action has a reaction, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for myself, I would never say my dad was a bad father in the sense of, like, anything was ever intentional. It was just he did not know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying my best, too, and that's what I've always told him. I'm like, you guys tried your best, and I know that, and all I can do is try and perpetuate that and not make the same mistakes you did. And
Right. I would say for me, going off from the trend throughout my childhood of feeling alone, not feeling recognized, that part where we were at City on a Hill at Schwartz's and that person said,
What do you have to say, Isaiah?
I would say that the moments throughout life that people either nudged me to, like, start a podcast, or that they said that the times that they recognize you do have something to say, that was very, very shaping for me and very motivating.
Would that be your favorite memory?
My favorite memory?
Why don't we do that next? What's your favorite memory?
Yeah, that would be a good one to end on.
Yeah.
Favorite memory. You go first, Jonathan.
Oh, of course.
You had the idea. I'll have time to think about it while you're answering your question.
Going fishing with my grandpa in the canoe on Lake Tempeline when I was less than probably 12. I don't know when exactly, but I just remember going out there and bobber fishing, catching a whole stringer full of fish and bringing them home and cooking them and eating them. A bunch of bluegill and perch and sunfish. And I remember, like, one time he reached down thinking he, like, reaching for a log or something, and he kind of jumped because it was a carp. It was laying on the bottom of the lake. This whole lake's like 3 foot deep in the deep part, right? Yeah. So on the, like, the sides, like, you can be in a couple inches of water in some spots. So we're just floating along in the canoe, heading back, and he reaches down to grab this log, and it flips around and swims off. And I hear the splash. I look back. He's like, that scared the crap out of me. I thought that was a log. It was a carp. But I don't know. Not too significant. But man, dude, just fishing on Lake Tempeline in the canoe with my grandpa. We did it more than once.
Grandpa.
But
your grandpa. That's like something else. Let's zero in on real quick.
Me?
Well, no. One of the memories you brought up was your grandpa. Your dad called your grandpa to calm you down.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to grandpa, I should say. Like,
my grandpa is to this day
like
my biggest role model. Yeah. Like, I do things, bro, and I think of if my grandpa was 30 here with me, like, what would he think? Would he approve of this? Like, you know, what would I say to explain my actions right now? All the time, man. Everything I do, I'm always thinking. Like when we've done a couple of these podcasts, I imagine like, what would he think of listening to me talk right now? You know, it's all the time. The one person whose approval I seek is his. I know I got it, so I'm kind of at peace in that way. You know.
So that's something else I'd like to focus on or ask. Somebody in your childhood throughout it that was a positive presence and like a happiness, warmth, you know, like as like
My dad, when he was loving, he just like his love language is gifts.
more so than your grandpa.
Yes.
Maybe because you wanted, you know, that was good to. There was the duality.
On Grandpa, I always just view it is what it is. Like I just like him. I look up to him. But the person whose approval, like or not approval, I wanted because that'd be my grandpa. But the person who it felt the best to get a hug from, or you know, to hear "I love you" from, was always my dad.
Yeah,
for sure. What's your favorite memory, dog? You think of it yet?
Well, this isn't necessarily the favorite one, but to piggyback off from yours about Dad's approval and how that was inspiring to me in a lot of ways. One time, me and my dad were out coon hunting, and it was on a Saturday night. We had just been at church, and I was talking about how this friend of mine at church, he was such a hypocrite. He was like talking to the girls about AC/DC, and that's just like this devil band. You know, I was 13, and I was just coming into like, you know, spirituality, taking the Bible seriously, and it was Dylan.
There's these heathens listening to this
like,
secular music.
he's such a hypocrite, and like whatever. Like he's talking about AC/DC at church. Oh, come on. And my dad said, you know, I never thought of you as much of a leader, but I think you're more of a leader than a follower. And I never thought about myself as a leader before, you know.
Oh,
as a kid,
frick.
but
I agree with him.
and you're not the only person that's recognized. And I have that's a thing that people have said before that I have trouble, like, I just like, oh, no, that's not true. Or, you know. But that was certainly a big one. I would say my favorite ones was... It was with Dad because, like, though there was the avoidance there, we had, like, a friendship, you know, to where... You know, we have good memories of riding. I'd go on service calls with him. We'd be riding around eating junk food that Mom wasn't okay with because it had hydrogenated oil in it, or something like that.
Hydrogenated soybean oil.
I would say, you know, like hanging out with you, Zach, Dylan, just memories of like just getting away from home. You know?
Applebee's.
Felt trapped at home as a kid because I was homeschooled. But
shout out to Zach, or else we never would have met.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Me and Zach were gonna hang out at Applebee's, and he's like, "You mind if I bring one of my friends?" I'm like, "I don't care." And
but
there we go.
I would say it was like that was going back to somebody in your life that was like that source of like warmth and happiness. Like again, you, Zach, Dylan, like you, all people that we enjoyed hanging out and we liked each other. Like to where most of my childhood, I felt like I was forced to live with people that didn't like me, so it felt good to be. Again, be recognized and be, like, appreciated.
It's interesting you say that, because I was introduced to you and started hanging out with that, I guess we could call it a clique. You, me, Dylan sometimes, Zach, Brittany, Jeremiah, right after the worst breakup of my life with this chick that I was with for almost 3 years, that we broke up, like, the day before Valentine's Day. I was... a mess, dog, and that was right when we all started hanging out, and that got me through that so
only a year
much better.
I think we'd been hanging out a year at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I heard she broke up with you. I was down at Darla's house in Mishawaka because we were dating at the time, and I drove 70 the whole way. Even in the areas it was 55 or 50, I just
dude. So
I had to get to my buddy and give him some consolation.
My favorite food at Applebee's was always their French fries, and Brittany went to Applebee's and got me a little freaking order of fries and brought it all the way to my house.
I remember that.
Dude,
I remember that. Then we went to the mall the next day.
Yeah, dude, when we got back, remember, like, we parked the car at your house, and I went out back, and I started punching on one of your tractors or something. So I was,
There'd be times you'd disappear, and you'd just be like, we'd find you, like, just standing in the barn. Just stand there sad.
good times.
I actually, maybe you can blot this out if you want to, but you had a pocket knife that I took from you that you didn't realize that I took from you. I gave it to you months later when you're feeling better. I was like, here's your pocket knife.
Years later, you gave that back to me. I'm like, dude, my sister gave me that knife. Where the frick? What, you had it this whole time?
Me and Brittany were talking about it.
Yeah.
I was like, do you think I should take his knife? And she was like, yeah, take his knife. So
Wow.
I took it and
Wow.
I gave it. You were really, at the time when
Wow.
I told you that's why I took it, you were very flattered. You're like, aw. What about
Kind
you?
of person you think I am. Jeez.
What about you, Steeley? Happiest memories and presents that really were like a good presence in your childhood.
My dog Fetch.
Yeah, I did have a dog that was like that. No, I did. I think. I
Sunshine.
guess she was around a lot. I didn't treat that dog like I should have had. Like, no, I didn't abuse her, but she was like an outside dog. And then I had King the pit bull, who was like, slept with me every night. And,
Hang out on your lap.
yeah, oh yeah.
Staring at
If
you.
I was around, yeah, that dog.
A pit bull that thinks it's a lap dog.
Yes, he was like, 70-pound rock that had to be on you. I think the memory that pops up to me the most, it is ironically something from my dad as well. With him losing his dad, like a lot of the family says I uncannily look like him. So if you do like a side-by-side photo,
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen it.
and so he told me, he's like, you remind me a lot of him in the sense of like he didn't say a lot, but he sat and thought a lot, and when he would say something, it really had a lot of impact. And I was like, similar, like I never thought of myself like that, but I don't know, just him. And I would say like through a close friend of mine, shout out Aaron Purley, I don't know if you'll ever hear this, but he lost his mom in his teens, and so him and I hung out a lot through that, and then also our family was kind of in those turmoil as well. And just
Your dad and his dad used to be in a band together, right?
right, yeah, I think it was No Fear, something like that, yeah. But yeah, so him and I hung out a lot, and I think it was like that commonality of both like not knowing what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
But we just, yeah, it seemed like everything left when we would hang out. So, and don't get me wrong, I love my family a ton, but my family has a ton of dysfunctionality where even saying like I love being around them, it was never like this is like where I'm at peace.
Yeah, same. It was, same was being with my group, my tribe,
Yeah, exactly.
my squad.
Water with 3 lemons.
How about
we end with
I guess now that actually, before you
Go
go
ahead.
to the last one, there is one other person that was pretty encouraging to my little depressed self going through high school, and that was when I met Austin. Shout out to
You've
Austin.
known Austin that long.
Freshman in high school.
Okay.
He started going to Lake Area. His teachers were like, hey, this kid's really smart. He's a little different, so treat him nice.
With each other.
And this freaking kid, like, cracks a couple jokes at me that's, like, kind of the same humor as me. I'm like, hey, start talking. Long story short, we're like homies going to each other's houses. He taught me how to play the first chords ever that I learned on guitar. Like, he wrote them down on a piece of paper, and I'd take it home to my grandpa's and learn them on his guitar.
I remember talking about
Heck yeah.
dogs and little buddies growing up. My first dog I got was Rusty. He was a Beagle Basset mix. And this might sound totally weird. And maybe it's totally bunny trailing, but Rusty, it was a February morning. I went outside. He was a hunting dog. He was a hound dog, so he stayed out in the barnyard.
Howly and
at a
yowly
little
like
dog house.
beagles are.
We found him in his dog house. His side was torn open, and he was laying there dying.
Coyotes?
Coyotes, or there was some pit bulls running around the countryside that...
Maybe a muskrat or something?
There's this group of... hey, I have a pit bull now. This isn't to hate on pit bulls. I love pit bulls. But there's this group, these few pit bulls that was running around the countryside that they would, like, there's a cow just up the road that they also got in the pen, and they tore its side open. So we think it was them. That was like their signature move.
Like wild ones?
No, the owner just wasn't a responsible owner. If
Go rip the owner's
if not
side out and see how he
responsible, he was
likes it.
probably actually like maybe his like motivations with the dogs was a bit nefarious, to say the least.
Oh, man.
So he killed Rusty, and oh my God, that crushed my soul. You know, I didn't really have many actual friends. You know, me and Rusty, we'd go on walks out rabbit hunting and whatnot, and he just like, it was weird. After Rusty, I'd have like various pets. Charles, the guinea pig, they'd die. It was usually being a February, and I just had this like constant theme throughout my childhood of these friends, just like friends, you know, animals, just like I never seemed like it was rare to have like consistent friends that didn't like, even with like Dylan, you know, the way that friendship ended, it was really affected me negatively in the sense of like this continuation of like abandonment, you know, and not really sure where I was going to go with that, but for some reason I felt the need to bring it up. Just felt like folks were always disappearing, you know, to where I feel like when you moved to Phoenix, you know, that was around the same time everything happened with Dylan.
And then you stopped calling me back.
Zach likewise went in the military, and that like ushered in a huge depressive part of my life. After that, I didn't. It felt like I went through a period where I just worked all the time and I didn't know how to make friends. And I feel like the resolve I found from that is kind of what you touched on earlier: exposure therapy. Just like putting yourself out there. You know, groups of people. And
best way to cure a germaphobe is to stick his hand in a toilet.
I just started doing that. And that led to a variety of things, like bouncing. You have to get real close up and personal with people with that. And then podcasting. Like, I'll just tell random people I'll meet on the street about the podcast, and we'll end up having like some sort of spiritual or philosophical discussion. And there's a part of my soul that you know, scratches and satisfies, you know. And just, you know, you're putting yourself out there, asking somebody to interview. You know, it's just another way of putting yourself out there and exposing yourself. And I don't feel lonely anymore. I don't. I feel like I have my tribe, and then I feel a much broader sense of appreciation and recognition by people outside of my tribe. So,
some beautiful memories.
Yeah. But I think like a pivotal part to growth as an adult is digging underneath a lot of these memories and finding like this child that is a part of us, you know, that he wasn't recognized, he was neglected, and we are the adult to that child that we wish an adult would have been to ourselves. It's like a way of self-therapizing, identifying that hurt inner child that's still there and negotiating with it, and, you know, giving it what it needs, what it should have been given. Kind of feel like when we interviewed Sonny, I was a much greater fan of POD when I was like, you know, younger, and so I felt like that was a little something I did for little Isaiah, who was a bigger fan, that never would have imagined he would have been interviewing Sonny from POD, this like band that I listened to 24/7, like age 10 to 17 or whatever. Like they were a huge like part of my childhood and the music I listened to, and probably shaped a lot of my philosophical views in terms of being like open-minded, because they're very like, they mix like reggae with like metal and punk and
Rap.
they were like open-minded Christians. Like they had mainstream success, and so they'd be on like secular radio stations. They'd go on tour with secular bands, but they'd still be out there singing like a positive kind of spiritual message, not as blatant as like Christian rock bands, but so I feel like they played a role in shaping being just like an open-minded spiritual person. Rusty to POD, Rusty to Sunny. Traverse some interesting memories, but I think we'll put a cap on this one. What are we at in terms of time for it?
1 hour 40 minutes.
Jesus. All right. Well, we'll end this. Any song suggestions? To end it
Oh,
with.
anybody under strange music labels for some pretty good lyrical rap, you know? Strange music. That's Tech Nine's label. So you got like Ritz and Mercules in them. Yellow Wolf, I believe now.
Oh, hey. Let me see. I have to.
Tessellate by Alt J.
Oh, JID just dropped a new album. I mean, it's going to be a while ago by the time this comes out, but that song he does, Animals Part 2 with Eminem, that'll tickle your lyrical bones.
Tessellate by Alt J and Death by Shotgun by Listener.
Death by Shotgun.
I will say anything by St. Paul and the Broken Bones. I'm actually going to see them tomorrow.
Hell yeah. What's the band we're going to see in August?
Oh, Conan.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Conan, and if we have any Conan listeners out there, let us know. Comment, Conan.
Right on.
All
So
right.
let's wrap it up.
Let's
Put
keep-
a bow on it.
Let's wrap this up, put a bow on it. Didn't mean for this one to take so long, but
I think that was a fun one, though.
Yeah.
It's fun for
worth
me.
it.
all right, so until next time, let's keep traversing this strange world with curiosity, inquisitiveness,
Swag.
swag,
You know.
yeah. And let's remember to be neighborly towards folks, because at the end of the day, we're all just
Strangers in a strange world. World.
World. Either one. So peace.
Toodles.
Steel.
If you would like to contact us, email us at peaceandtoodles@gmail.com. Until next time, salutations, my fellow strangers.
What will they think of next?